All right, so this is the second aspect that I believe is equally relevant to the forerunner things. It's so the first one I touched on, the Lord speaking to me about not being stuck on an old revelation, but to understand that there's advancements and there's building and there's adding to, and remain teachable and pliable and grab a hold of the things and the grace that He's given now. So in this aspect, with that same dream, the Lord expanded on. The night before I had the dream, Cat Kerr, it was Cat Kerr, laid hands on everybody, imparting a forerunner spirit. Okay, meaning that if you desire to break through some things, if you desire to be somebody who's leading edge in something, or to bring an advancement in an area, she prayed for people who wanted to receive that God would begin to give them a grace to do that. So that being said, what also is true in that dream, with the gentleman being frustrated toward Henry Ford, he completely missed the value that he brought to the table. Without his forerunning of the automobile horse carriage becoming automobile gasoline engine, etc., and all the components that led to that, no one knows Henry Ford. You understand? Without you, in other words, doing your part of forerunning, then the people who build on it and may be more known than you may impart something into somebody. I always kind of like to refer back to Billy Graham. I don't recall the name of the evangelist that led him to Christ, but people know Billy Graham, and I've heard his name, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. So that's kind of my point. But God Himself doesn't value more those known more, and He doesn't value less those who are recognized publicly in man's eyes less. What is important is that we don't take any sort of a discouraged position because we don't invent Ford, okay? But we might be a part of something that leads to a Henry Ford, that leads to the air-conditioned car, that leads to NASCAR, that leads to the trucks, that leads to the semis, all these things built on something because somebody did their part. It's that way for our children. The further you advance personally for them, then the greater opportunity you give them in a platform to walk in something and to do more than you. And you ought to have a desire as a leader, if that's your heart, or as an individual, to utilize your life to advance and forerun as much as possible within your ability, within the grace on your life, so that those that come after you will not have to fight the battles that you can win, learn the things that you can learn, walk in places that you can do for them, so that when you hand them the fulfillment of something that you've got a revelation on and a grip on, you impart that to them, you teach them, you show them this, but they don't have to learn all the nuances that you did, and you empower them now to add to it and do something that you've never dreamed of. So don't get discouraged about not being Henry Ford if you're the person that's forerunning in your family something that's going to lead to a Henry Ford, and frustrated about your role because it may not seem as significant as the advancement of production with the vehicles on the line and all the stuff that Henry Ford put into motion. Henry Ford was not successful unless he had all the people around him, unless he had the resources that had already come into play that he utilized. He did forerun some things, but there was people who forerunned before Henry Ford to ever get to what he could do with it. So God is very good with order and timing and utilization of people's gifts, skills, talents, heart, and desires. Just make sure you don't get frustrated whenever other people do things better than you, faster than you, more than you. Appreciate that you played a part in some way, some form, or fashion to invest into somebody so that they could do what you couldn't do. I hope this ministers to you. Share it, and God bless you. Have a wonderful day.